Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day, where our reflection continues from Sorat Mahalla Panjwa, compositions of the fifth Nanak, Gur Arjan, and I begin with the recitation of the first verse of this sabad. Sorat Mahalla Panjwa, Gun Gavahu Pooran Abinasi, Kam Krodh Bikh Jare, Maha Bikham Agan Ko Sagar, Sadhu Sang Udhare. So literally what it's saying is, sing praise to that perfect one who is indestructible. Gun Gavahu Pooran Abinasi. Abinasi, indestructible. And we'll talk about Pooran. Kam Krodh Bikh Jare. The poison of anger, lust, is burnt away simply by singing praise to the perfect one. Not only that, Maha Bikham Aginko Sagar, this existence is a most difficult ocean of fire. Literally, that is what it says. And it is crossed through in the company of the perfected ones. So we are speaking about perfection and perfected ones. We'll see what that means. So you see, the focus here is on Pooran. And it appears it's applicable both to the Abinasi, the indestructible, as well as to the Sadhu, the Guru, who shares in those attributes. So Pooran, which means complete, perfect, or whole, it applies to a state of completeness, wholeness. And it is deemed perfect, the Abinasi, because it is complete in attributes, sargun. It's complete without attributes, nirgun. It is eternal, ad sach jugad sach, and omnipotent. That's why it's called Pooran. Gurbani, in this verse, we are being offered this perfection. The Guru is saying, turn your attention to this perfection, both as an abstraction, if you will, and a space for transformation. If you wish to overcome the hold of lust and anger, he's offering you a transformational remedy. Create an enlightened space, that is to say, Sangat, and in that space, focus on the qualities of the self. Gunagavo. Assimilate those qualities. So you see, lust and anger lose their grip. But what you have noticed here is that the Guru is not asking us to suppress them. What he's asking us to do is to turn our attention. This is a shifting of attention from lower attachments to higher values. So that is the methodology of Gurmat. It is not about suppressing this energy of the passions. It is redirecting it by redirecting your attention to the Pooran. And in the Rahau, the same idea is amplified. Pura gur mityo param andhera, paj prem pagat prabhanera Rahau. So the perfect teacher, again, it's amplifying the first verse. Here, perfection is being seen as Pura Gur. The word Gur has a sihari, which suggests that it is an active verb. That is to say, the enlightener, the Abinasi, gives you a perfect solution. the ideal method or template for restructuring your thought patterns. Instead of fighting those impulses as we saw, which actually strengthens them because you pay attention to them, consciousness then becomes absorbed in positive qualities when you turn your attention. That's what's going on. And then Guruji talks about the culmination of this process in the second verse. He says, Har har naam nidhan ras piya. I drank the nectar. Man tan rahe aghai. Satiation, aghai. Satisfied, psychological satisfaction. Jat kat pura raho parameswar. Kat aave kat jai. Jat kat. Everywhere. You remember we talked about omnipotence, omnipresence being a quality of this Puran. That is what is being re-emphasized here. Parameswar, it's being called Parameswar, one who is Kate Ave, Kate Jai, that is on this side of the boundary and on that side of the boundary. It's all encompassing. So this is the culmination. The drinking of the nectar of wisdom brings satisfaction, psychological satisfaction to the existential hunger that we have. We are born with this hunger. Man tan rahe aghai. And jat kat pura reho parameswar. Omnipresence. What that does is, it's a cognitive shift from dualistic thinking to non-dual awareness. You realize that this perfection is everywhere. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar, on the other hand, that were mentioned, the passions, they operate on the principle of getting something from somewhere else. Seeking pleasure, seeking power, validation from external sources. This seeking mechanism becomes absurd when consciousness realizes divine omnipresence. If the divine is already filling everything, then what is there to seek? Where is there to go? Kat aave, kat jai. It's a lived realization. When you truly understand that the divine is present everywhere, the mind stops its restless coming and going. So this is a move from fragmentation to wholeness. And it happens naturally. This is the key. There is no forced suppression. So when the mind assumes this state, becomes thoroughly absorbed in divine awareness, those passionate impulses don't have to be fought. They simply lack the psychological space to arise in the mind. The mind, being completely satisfied and aware, has no reason to seek fulfillment anywhere else. And then a description of the state of such a mind. Jap tap sanjam gyan tat beta jis mane vase gopala naam ratan jin gurmukh paya taki puran kala. So meditation, austerity, self-discipline, all of this is subsumed in the one that knows the essence. Naam ratan jin gurmukh paya, those who have obtained the jewel of Naam, their work is complete. Meaning, this verse talks about effortless mastery. When divine perfection becomes the foundation of your consciousness, there is no need for laborious effort into natural expression. It just happens. It is only when you are living in ego that there is an effort involved to do something. Jisman vase gopala. God consciousness becomes the resident reality of the mind. And when this happens, all of the spiritual disciplines that we have talked about, meditation, austerity, self-control, become subsumed. They become spontaneous expressions rather than forced practices. You see, you don't even have to force that practice. When consciousness is occupied by divine presence, spiritual disciplines are already happening. The person doesn't really struggle to meditate or control. These qualities flow automatically. So, spiritual mastery, if you will, isn't achieved through willful practice, but through divine indwelling. When Akal Purakh dwells in the mind, you embody all spiritual virtue. And this transformation occurs through Gurumukh, through the Guru's grace, through Guru wisdom. And the jewel of the name, Namaratan, is the concentrated essence. Nam isn't just a word, but a transformative frequency. It restructures your consciousness. Passions dissolve in it, not through fighting, but through this fundamental restructuring. So, integration is what cures. And this is the paradox of spiritual achievement. Spiritual mastery comes not through personal effort, but through divine perfection, which is grace. So we need to focus on that template. We need to focus on cultivating that presence. We have to allow natural transformation to happen. In conclusion, Kal kale samite dukh sagale, Kati jam ki fasa, Kaho nanak prabhe kirpa tari, Man tan bhai bigasa. Strife and suffering have been erased. This is again effortless mastery. That's what's happening. Grace in the end. Kaho nanak kirpa tari, Man tan bhai bigasa. Blossoming. You are in an eternal state of blossom, growth. And that is Prabha Kirpa Tari. When that happens. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.